Okay, so tonight on um, on this show, we are doing watercolor fish. And my inspiration for the workshop was this book, Chinese Painting Techniques. But look at that stunning koi that's on the top of it, right? On the cover of the book. This is an amazing book, but I think it's from, when's it from? 2000 and let's see, what is the year that this came out? Something in the early 2000s, I think. Come on, it should say it right here. Copyright 2000. So it's a vintage book, right? But it's Chinese painting techniques. Now, what I do um, during at the products and the books that I talk about during the workshop, if I can find them, links to them, then after the workshop is over, I go into the YouTube video and I add the links to my reference materials or specific artists. I will link them in the description of the video. So that'll be up there tomorrow. You can always go back and reference it if you want to try to find the books or the artists that I talk about. So this is one of the ones that I did on rice paper. So this is watercolor on rice paper. And it's actually my rendition, my version using the cover of this book, Chinese Painting Techniques. It's my version of this fish. And I did it on rice paper because you know what? Rice paper is very inexpensive and it's a great way to work out your ideas on rice paper before you move on to your watercolor paper. So this was a piece that I did on rice paper, a very thin paper. Now, if I like the artworks that I do on rice paper, then I can mount those artworks onto a stiffer paper, and that will allow me then to sell those and mat those easily. Now, another fish that I did, um, I believe in Florida we call these crappies. This kind of sort of a fat, almost pan-shaped fish. And so this is another fish that I did, very loose. And that's kind of, this is more loose, as is this one right here. It's more loose, right? And then I got more toward what I call tight. That means a more illustrative style. And so these are fish that I did. Let's see, what direction does that one go in? That one goes in that direction for you. um, so these are a more illustrative style. And notice how this is a piece of watercolor paper, but it is cut up. So don't throw away your leftovers of watercolor paper. I save all my different pieces and I either use them for just a quick swatch, if I'm, for instance, color mixing, or in the case of something like this, where I just want to do some quick illustrations and see how it comes out. Well, they weren't so quick because I decided that I liked them and I went back in and I did all kinds of details on them, but whatever. Oh, and so what supplies are we going to be using? Oh, thank you, Mark V. Said really, really nice. Oh, and the supplies that we're going to be using tonight to create some fish of our own is some watercolors. So these are watercolor pans. So this is what's called a travel set. It has, if you've ever seen this little loop on the bottom of a watercolor thing, it's for you to put your finger in order to hold it like this while you're painting, whether it's in your studio or outside. Normally in the studio, I lay it on the table, but I do this when I'm on the airplane or outside. I will use the loop on the bottom to hold it. And so this is the Christy Rice. Christy Rice is an artist that this is her design for the case. And then these are her watercolors. It was a set of 12, and then I added my own pans. So these are little, these came empty, and then I filled them with tube watercolor. So this is for instance, this orange we're going to use tonight. This is a Winsor and Newton paint tube. So you can take these tubes and squeeze them into those little, what are called pans, and let them dry, and then they become portable. Where this I want to use in my studio while it's still nice and juicy, I call it, right, in the studio. So I'll be showing you that when we get to that point. The other type of paint that we're going to be using tonight is something called Sumi ink. So here you can see the Yasutomo, and it says Sumi, S-U-M-I ink. So that is a black ink, like a heavy black ink that's used for sumie. It's called sumie painting. And the books that I referenced for this workshop were sumie books. And so what the outlining that I did, for instance, of these fish and the gray that I put in these fish was with the Sumi ink. And I'll be showing you how to do that tonight. So there's that. And then this is a big one, a larger size that I use. And the whole thing is in Japanese. And the only reason I know what it is because on the website where I bought it, it said it was Sumi ink. So there you go. Because I could not read the Japanese there. But I like these that have the little let me show you here. A little squeeze thing right here. I like that because then I can control a little bit better how much ink comes out. So besides the paints, let me get that closed. Actually, a couple other kinds of paints. One is you might want to have yourself some sort of metallic. I like to, after I've done the work, look at it and go back in and throw some little metallic highlights. So this is a Japanese um, gold color. It comes in a little case like this. Whoop. So it's in a little ceramic plate, and that has kind of a rich color to it. And that's what I used on this fish right here. There's some gold and accents in there, and that's what I use to get the gold accents. Something else you're going to need is some sort of dish, shallow dish to do some mixing, like paint mixing. So this is some of the Sumi ink right here, and I like these. These are little, what are they called? Butcher trays. They're mini butcher trays. I just love them. They have an enamel finish to them, super easy to clean. That's why I like those. But, you know, a lot of people use ceramic, or I also have little plastic ones. They work quite well as well. Then for some details at the end, sometimes you have trouble. I do. Let's put it this way. Sometimes I have trouble maintaining the white when I am finished with a piece, like in the eyes, especially um, of animals or people. And so there are a couple of paints that allow you to go back in over top of that watercolor and put in those details. So let me show you here. I like to use this one. It's Copic by the company Copic White. And this one's kind of cool because it's kind of like an eyeliner, right? You see that little teeny tiny tip to a little brush that comes right in it. That's fun. And the other kind is Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. So illustrators are very familiar with this bleed proof white, and it's probably the white of choice of most illustrators. Is you have to mix it. It's a nice thick white. You do have to mix it before you use it. And then you can use any size brush to go in and add your whites on top with this. So let me show you an example of where I use that right here. So on this fish, because this is rice paper, the paint tends to spread a little bit more, which gives you a beautiful diffused look. But then that also means that when you're doing the black of the eyes, oftentimes it spreads. And so here in this eye, the black had spread, but I wanted to put those little details back in there. And so I used the Copic, that was the Copic, with the little teeny tiny tip brush on it that I used to go back in and add that little highlight back into the eye of the fish. So that's definitely, I mean, that could be worth the price of admission, right? if you know little tricks like that. Okay, let me share with you uh, a couple of other artists. One from Instagram, and then a couple of books here. So this is Snoogs and Wild. I think I mentioned her last week, but Snoogs and Wild, and I will put a link to this artist's Instagram in the description of the video. And she's an illustrator. And so this is some of her artwork here. But you see these fun fish? So here's one that's a couple that are completed. So she takes the same sort of shape or design of a fish and then has one looking this way, one looking that way, one looking that way. You see how she does that? And then she paints them with different colors. I just think that's so fun. And then I picked this one over here where she had done two and showed you an illustration of the third one and printed it larger so you can see a little bit better. And so she's using water, she creates the outline and then use watercolor technique on the inside here in order to get beautiful variations. This one up here, she puts salt on the wet paint. And so you get some beautiful diffused looks from that. So you can use all of your watercolor techniques, but just within a shape in this case. And I think that's fabulous. I love the way she puts the shapes in and then just does all different kinds of colors. And it's really fun. It's a lot of fun. Never thought of salt. Yeah, Mark V, that's a big thing with watercolor. There are two things that you can do to get that kind of diffused, like little spots, especially a lot of people like to use it for, say, a starry night or something like that. They'll put a dramatic color in and like a dark blue or something, and then they'll sprinkle it with salt. Or the alternative is you can spray it with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. So there's another reason why I keep rubbing alcohol right here on the my table. So with watercolor, you can also spray a little bit of rubbing alcohol and it'll also push the colors out of the way and give you a really interesting effect. Yes, yes. It's very simple. Actually, right here in my studio, right next to me, let's see, I can put my hands on it. I have See, sea salt. You want the like the kind of large grain. You don't want like table salt. You want salt that is coarse. So right there it says coarse crystals. That's what you want. You want the coarse salt, and you sprinkle that on. Maybe we'll do that. I'll leave this on the table, and we'll see if I can remember to do that with you a little bit later, so you can see. Right. Oh, so that's the only artist I have for you from Instagram tonight, but I have several books for you, similar to the first one that I showed you. Now, this one is called Complete Sumi. See where it says SUMI E? That's the type of painting with this black ink, but it's not always just black. It can be other watercolors as well, other colors. But this bamboo, that's your typical Sumi. And so this book, what I do is on the auctions, for instance, on Whatnot, I'm always asking, do you have any vintage art books? Because depending on the subject line, I like to collect books within a particular subject. And because I grew up in Asia, I love doing the sumi painting, and I have tons of brushes right here. See the whole bucket full of the Asian brushes. This isn't even all of them, right? And so I ask during the auctions, and I also search on various websites for vintage art books in the subject matter that I'm looking for. And so the next two books I'm going to show you, actually all three books that I'm going to show you. Oh, thanks for sharing, Mark, are vintage books. So the last one I showed you was from 2000. This one is, it says complete instructions for painting over 200 subjects. It is the first printing 1966. Um, Actually, this is a compilation of 4 volumes from this artist. So if you ever see that cover, This is actually a hardbound book, so there's a beautiful dust cover on it. This is what it looks like without the dust cover. There you go. Complete Sumi Techniques. Sadami Yamada is the author. And like I said, I'll see if I can find it. A lot of times these books are out of print, and that's why I'm on the hunt for them all the time at auctions or um, estate sales or uh, just different websites. And so in this book, here, what I like is the artist breaks down and makes it super simple to do these subjects. So I love these shrimp. I think they are so fun. Oh, and then you skip to the next page and you have a carp and a flatfish. So a flounder like that and a carp like that. But you see how they show you all the strokes, which makes it super easy. Now, the strokes that I'm talking about are you serious? I didn't bring my brushes in here. Oh, I'm a nut. Okay, so we're talking about these kind of brushes here. Asian brushes, Chinese brushes, or Japanese brushes. Here's another one right here. This one still has the starch in it. But you know what? I don't have my brushes here. And that's why I didn't mention them in the supplies. I don't have the brushes here. So when I finish talking to you about the books, I'm going to run out and go grab the brushes because I had to wash the brushes and I had to get fresh water and I forgot to bring it in. But here is one of my favorite subjects is doing the carp. You see that carp right there? Fantastic. And then these are some other, what did they say these are? Trout. So you can be super simple and just use one color, or you can be a little more fancy and use a bunch more colors. So let me put a bookmark here where the shrimp are, because I think the shrimp are just so cute. And I want to come back and do those. But this book has, as it said, over 200 images or projects. So like birds and flowers and other animals and just wow, an amazing reference. And you know, when I'm buying them off of websites, I'm generally not paying much more than $10 to $15 for incredible vintage books. Now here's another one in the subject of sumie. So here, this is called The Art and Technique of Sumie. And this one even has a plastic cover on it, which is fabulous. So it has the dust cover, plus it has a, no, actually, there's no dust cover to this book. It's just it comes with the plastic cover. And it is from well, somebody wrote in it 1984. So it's going to be from 84 or earlier. 1979 is this book right here. That's when I moved to Florida, 1979, a long time. And then inside here, it's not as much, this is more of a reference book, and it's not as much showing you exact projects. It's showing you finished. So it's saying, here are some goldfish, here's a squid. Let's see, over here you've got, something that looks kind of like a trout and some oysters. And notice there's color in these. They're not just the black and white. So this is more of uh, a reference book talking about sumie and the different subjects. And there is a little bit of instruction in it, but for the most part, it's pictures like that to give you inspiration. And I love books that have great stuff in them for inspiration. I get a lot of ideas from my books. I love my books. Okay. And then the one that I showed you earlier, the Chinese painting techniques, this one is an instructional book. And the artist who wrote it, let's see, Lian Quanzhen, is wow, he is amazing. Here's some of his artwork here. What? Yeah, he takes watercolor like to the nth degree, Just amazing, amazing. He's actually a medical doctor from Canton in China and then moved to the United States in 1992. Um, and you know what? He's self-taught. Do you believe it? Self-taught. I love that. So when someone says that they're a self-taught artist, that means that they didn't go to college and necessarily get a degree in art. It means they picked a subject that they really liked. They read books. They went to workshops, seminars, art academies, that kind of stuff, but not to college to get a degree. So, for instance, that's what I consider myself also a self-taught artist, where I attended the Boca Museum of Art School for 4 years and learned different subjects. And then I love my art books, and I probably have about 400 art books in my collection about all different subjects, um, beading, all kinds of jewelry, and all different types of painting. It's fabulous. Um, and so let me show you in this book. So in this book, he gives you instruction on, for instance, how to mount your paintings and all. But then I like that he gives you details. You see all these details? This is about doing bird hair, um, and what, leaves? And I mean, uh, let's see, creating feather and fin textures. And then here is a bald eagle. So yes, he is giving you a step by step, but it's a little more complicated, his his artworks are quite a bit more fancy, but he does try to break it down. So let me see the fish section here, or the animals section. He's doing a section here on composition, and so he's talking about composition. But what I did was I flipped through and I saw, oh, okay, here are some crabs. Okay, here are some goldfish. And my illustrations are based upon his book. Let me see, there's another section here where he's talking about composition, how you put together your composition. And he's happens to be using fish in this example. So I love that. Um, Fantastic. Let us, I'm looking here to see if there's anything else exciting. I mean, this whole book is just, let me show you some other things from his book. See how he's showing you different claws, different faces, so different ways, different elements of birds. And I like that he not only shows you all of these beautiful inspirational finished artworks, but he's breaking it down and showing you the black and white for these individuals. And so I find this book extremely helpful, I think, when you're a little more advanced. And then there's a section in here, a whole section called Painting Fish. And so this was my inspiration for this workshop, was his fish section, and the fact that he had that beautiful koi fish on the front of the book, right? So he's showing you the anatomy of a fish, not just the outside, but what the inside is like, and then breaks some of it down for you. Talks about different colors and the features of fish. You might recognize this page because I did, which fish did I do from here? Oh, I'm looking to see. It wasn't this fish. Which fish did I do? Did I do that fish? Anyway, I picked one of these fish. And then over on this side, I picked another one of the fish. So I was using his fish as my inspiration for doing that. And then I also love these angelfish. But you see, he's showing it to you in black and white, and then he's showing it to you in color. So I love that. Love, love, love that. Because before I did color, I used his examples and I did black and white. So let me show you that. So on cheapo rice paper, so here's the rice paper. On the cheap rice paper, and just using the black Sumi ink, then I started playing around. These are little goldfish. I started playing around with these designs. This was purple paint that I happen to have on my palette, but there's trying out those designs there. And then this is doing the carp. So some of those were from his designs. This was also from his designs. You'll kind of recognize it from the book, but it was starting to add color in to see, okay, how's the color going to work with that? So when I prepare for these workshops, there's a lot that goes into the back end of figuring out what it is that I'm going to be doing, and lots and lots of practice, right, in order to get the look that I want and get the finished pieces that I want. But I find it's really helpful, if you haven't done it before, to use the rice paper to do your testing on. All you need is one color and some rice paper, and you can get started with that, right? Okay. Um, Here is the other paper that I used. So this is what I would call, as I mentioned before, the crappie, is the name of that fish. And this is on really thick watercolor paper. So I work out the idea first on the rice paper, cheap, cheap. This is my favorite rice paper, the Yasutomo Sumi paper. And it is let me see, it's going to tell me right here. I think it's a 6H is the, well, they call it Hosho, HOSHO paper. It's not too thin. It's got a nice weight to it, which works well for the kind of work that I'm going to be showing you. And then the other thing here is, when I say, I saw somebody say thick, and they want to know how thick it is. So this is 140-pound paper. And thank you for your question over on YouTube. Um, the watercolor paper, your typical watercolor paper, is going to be anywhere between 90 pounds and uh, 300 pounds. Okay. This is kind of in the middle. It's 140 pounds. It's the Canson XL watercolor paper. It's my studio, the one that I use in the studio all the time. It's my studio workhorse, I call it. I happen to use the 9x12 because it fits perfectly into the 11x14 mats. And then it is 140 pounds. So it's a nice thick watercolor paper. It's perfect for taking on the work like this. Plenty of water. You can put plenty of water on it. Like this, you see all the layers of watercolor that I did in here. But because the paper is thicker, it was able to take all of that paint. You are welcome. Someone was saying, thank you on YouTube. And then this, of course, is that very thin rice paper. So yes, I can go in with a couple of layers, but you have to be so careful because it can just soak the paper. I can see the paper right here is already distressed because I put like 3 layers of watercolor on, excuse me, on it. And it's kind of like, what are you trying to do to me? Right. All right. We are going to get started over the table. There are a couple of types of brushes that I like to use for this type of effect. One is that I like to work with my Asian brushes. So this is what the Asian brushes look like. And the hairs here. This is a combination. It has goat hair on the outside and another kind of hair on the inside there. Kind of interesting. Um, you'll find they come in different colors. Like this one is just goat hair right here. And you see how they look super fluffy like that? The trick is, once you put them in water and you get some of that water off of there, then they'll begin to come to a point, and then you're able to use that. So this is a very inexpensive Asian brush. You can pick these up in the big art supply stores, and it works perfectly for some of the techniques that we'll be doing. Now, besides that kind of a brush, there's also, these are Princeton watercolor brushes. They're Velvet Touch. They're the watercolor brushes that I use the most. And sometimes it can be difficult to do Asian painting with regular watercolor brushes. So it just depends on the subject matter, whether your regular watercolor brushes will work or not. Now, what you find is the Asian brushes hold a lot of water and paint in the belly of the brush here. And they also come to a point where these brushes, which are the Princeton watercolor brushes, they don't hold as much water and paint in the belly of the brush. Okay. Oh, thanks for the hearts over on YouTube. I appreciate it. And so, you know, yes, you can use these kind of watercolor brushes, but I find that, well, I use a combination of them. And I have both available to me. So it just depends on what I'm doing, which one I use. Now, I do use a brush rest to hold my brushes off to the side to try to keep them from either rolling off the table or from staining my table. um, but again, this is one that looks all fluffy. But then when I put it in the water, and I uh, run it against the edge of the water bowl. You see how it comes to a nice tip right here, just like that. Um, now, for the detail, like for these fish and for the fish that I did here, these black lines, I used what's called a liner brush. Some people call it a rigger brush for in watercolor terms. And so this is a long, thin brush, and it works very well to pick up your black paint and make your outlines. Let's see, here's one that if I were working on a larger piece, here's a nice big rigger brush right here. So if I'm on a larger piece of paper, hey there, party flavor, welcome in over on Whatnot, then I might end up using the larger rigger brush, right? But this is a set of travel brushes from Christy Rice. I mentioned earlier that this watercolor case is from Christy Rice, and these are her travel brushes. So these separate like this and then go into there, and they come in a little case, super cute. These are, it's this set works very well for what it is we're going to be doing tonight as well. So I do like to keep these handy and use those in addition. For this kind of project, they work really well. Let me set some of these things aside. Now, let's see, what are we going to do to start with? Because we're not going to start with that. That's a little bit fancy, okay? So here's what I had spoken about that I just love about this author's book. And if you weren't here earlier, it's Chinese Painting Techniques for Exquisite Watercolors by Lian Huan Chen. And so you see how in here it says how to sketch fish in his fish section. And he's showing you different viewpoints of the fish from underneath, from the side, from the top, straight on, right? Isn't that amazing? And then some of these other, this is like kind of how the koi fish move. And I love that he shows you just in simple lines because you can practice in pencil if you want to before you get to the point where you are actually painting. Now, here again, he's showing you just the very basic shapes that you're using, the circles and the triangles in order to create these various types of fish. So I love the way that he breaks it down. Um, let's do this here. And then he's telling you how to paint. He's taking you step by step through actually how to paint. Some goldfish. What? Look at those. Aren't they cute? They're just so cute. Ah, I love his step by steps. And then here's the finished painting for the step by step that he showed you. So quite beautiful. And then he does a scorpion fish. If y'all don't know what a scorpion fish looks like, there you go. That's what a scorpion fish looks like. Do not, when you're swimming in the ocean, do not touch these because they have poison in their spines and woo, they'll get you. They will get you. So let's go back to some of the more simplistic stuff he was showing you here. And let's see, simple dimple, because I want to start you off with something simple. Okay, let's do the simple page. Simple. And we'll pick something from here, um, and and then do some practice. So since we're doing just a warm up practice, we're going to use rice paper, right? And what I have underneath here is I have a piece of felt. So I forgot to mention that earlier, that whenever I'm using rice paper, I do my painting on top of a piece of felt. So this just came from a craft store, or there are a lot of people on Whatnot that have craft supplies that they offer on auction. And so you can find felt from folks on Whatnot as well. So this Sumi paper from Yasutomo, I'm going to take a piece here and I am going to tear this out like that. Now, somewhere in amongst my art supplies, I also have a weights. Some people like to put a little heavy weight on it to hold the paper down, but I don't need that for where I am right now because it's not a problem with wind, as it were, in my studio. So let's make sure this is more or less centered for you. Now I'm going to start out with just using the black and using the skinny brush that I was telling you about, the rigger. So this was black Sumi ink that I put in here yesterday. Let's see. No, it's not wanting to rehydrate very well. So I'll have to take that to the sink and mess with it. Let's put a fresh one out. Yeah, let's do a fresh one. Woohoo. So I'm going to take some of the Sumi ink. I'm going to swirl it around and put that. Like I said, I love the little nozzle that's here because it makes it easy for you to dispense a small amount of paint like that. And this is one that actually says on it in English, Sumi ink. That's what we're working with, black Sumi ink. And then we're also going to work with watercolors. This is my swatch card for my various watercolors. So we have lots of colors to choose from. Plus, I have an orange tube of Winsor Newton paint here, so I can show you how we can just squeeze it right out of the tube as well. Now, this black is super de-duper concentrated. So if I just pull straight out of there with my brush and I go straight onto here, it's quite dark. You see that? So sometimes if I want to go a little lighter, then I will make sure that I pull some of the color out like this, sort of stretch it out. So I've got it off to the side. And then I dip in and I add a bunch more water to it. And that way I can get something more of a gray instead of a black. So now my color comes out a little bit more gray than it does black. So oftentimes when I'm doing these initial sketches and practicing, you use a lot less paint too when you're working with the gray. And so I like to do my shapes oftentimes with that. Let's do something. I'm taking a look at his book and let's do something like this. So right now I've got the rigger. It doesn't hold a lot of paint, which is good. I'm not going to make any big mistakes, right? And then we're coming this way and he's showing that for the fish, we're going to sort of put a circle in here. So you get a feel for that's the body, right, of the fish. Doesn't look like much yet. Back here, there's a fin, right? We have the fins on the fish. And then we've also got over here, we've got another fin. So we're gonna, remember, we're just sketching, so we don't have to worry about perfection. I love that. At least in the beginning, when you're looking at a subject, don't worry about perfection, just look at shapes. So, um, and then we're gonna go for the head here now. So the head comes up and comes around. Plus, there's a little mouth. The cool thing with the carp or the koi is usually their bottom lip kind of sticks out a little bit. So you'll see they put like a little loop for the mouth at the bottom there. And then because we're looking at it from the top, the eyes sort of stick out a little bit on the sides. So we're just doing that. And then, of course, you want to look at the tail. So we'll come back for the tail here. And we're just going to do the tail simple like this. And so that gives you a feel for the fish going in this direction. Now, of course, on the top, and I'm going to add some more water because I just want it to be super light gray. Um, you're going to have some sort of fin on the top here, right? That sort of flops over one way or the other. And so that's the basic outline for a koi fish, the basics. Before I go and I try to do something like this, which is a full on koi fish with no lines. I didn't draw any lines on here. I just went in with color. Um, you're going to need to practice. You need to practice first before you decide to just go in with paint. And so paint colors. And so this is the type of practice that really helps a lot. Let's do another one where it's going in a different direction. So you see how these rigger brushes can be great just for doing these little sketchy things. Okay, let's see. Here's one that kind of is going, we're looking at it on its side instead of on the, so we're going to do the little mouth right here. And then the body is kind of coming around like that. And we're going to bring the tail off of that. So when he's doing his sketching, he's not worrying too much. You're just kind of trying to work out the proportions, right? Like what's going to look right. Okay, so this actually needs to go more like this. You see why we're not doing it on watercolor paper? We are doing it over here on our sketch rice paper. So that way you can mess around with it. You're building muscle memory. So I don't know if you're familiar with that concept, but there's a concept called muscle memory. And muscle memory is where you develop the movements, the strokes that you're going to want to work from for when you're doing the finished painting. There's another fin right there. We're going to do the top fin along here. There we go. And then, now I haven't even gotten to the face yet. We were just working on the body, the fins, the tail, the top fin. The dorsal fin is the top fin. And then over here, oops, now this is kind of flat. I don't want it to be flat. I'm going to turn it as I'm dipping it into the paint in order to get it to be a point. Okay. So for sketchies, you want a point. So here we're going to do the gills. So if you're doing it kind of on the side, you're going to see some gills. And then we've got this part right here. And we're going to put the eye over here. And you've got one of the cool things with koi fish that I forgot to put on this one is you have little whiskers. Have you all ever seen those? They have little whiskers on the front. They're cute. And so I just put the little whisker there. I have the eye there. Gonna bring the side of the face and the side of the fish. And then the other side over here just comes and you have a little bump for the eye and then it comes around. So not my best rendition, but it's getting you warmed up. Yesterday, I think I spent about 4 hours painting because I do my warm-ups first. I do some sketchy sketches and then I get into actually painting. So those are some different shapes of the carp or the koi fish. So now let's look at a little Let's do one of the, what are these things called? Butterfly fish. Okay, let's do a butterfly fish. So the butterfly fish, he starts out showing you a circle. So you do a circle, and then we're going to build the front of the face like this off of there. So he's breaking it up into the simple shapes. Then we're going to bring a tail off here. There we are. And then we're going to put the top fin like that. So we've got a top fin. And then the trick is to kind of mirror that on the bottom. So now we've got a top fin, a bottom fin, a tail. And one of the things about these butterfly fish is they have some interesting stripes on them. So, oh, let's see. You know what? Instead of doing the butterfly fish, I started on the angelfish. No worries. We'll just keep going on the angelfish. Another interesting thing about the angelfish is they have these little things that come off of their chin, super long, like that. And then let's do the tail area here. A lot of times these fish, the tropical fish, will have little stripes on them, and it helps to camouflage them when they're in the water. So we'll do this, and we just, if you didn't have this detail brush, it would be very difficult to do these little lines that I'm putting in there right now. And so then another one up here, and then more lines like this. Okay. And you see how I still have plenty of gray paint? Sometimes I have to dip into the water just to keep it hydrated, but plenty of gray there. And then let's see, there's an eye right here. And we've got some gills right behind the eye. So the anatomy of these fish, you're normally going to see gills somewhere on there if you're looking at a side view, and then the eye. And that looks like that's about that's about it for that one. Now, that was the angelfish. And then he shows you different angles of the angelfish. So that's when you're looking at the angelfish on the side. Let's look at the angelfish coming toward us. And so we're going to do the top fin like this. Oops, I need more water in there so it'll flow off the brush better. And then we've got a tail that comes off of here. Nice. That was the top fin. And then we've got another fin, the fin that comes around the back like this. And the body is sort of oblong. So let's bring the body out like this, oblong. Sketchy sketchies. I didn't even show you all the sketches that I did in prep for the workshop. Now we're going to put the little mouth right here. We're going to put the eye right up here. So the eye is no longer going to be round. It's at an oval. We've got the right there. We've got the gills, and then we've got, oops, I have to turn it, make sure I have a nice point. And then I've got the stripe coming off here. So let's fix this a little bit. So the interesting thing is it's looking, instead of coming sideways to you like that, it's coming at an angle to you. So everything is sort of at an angle. And that's what you want to do when you're working on a subject, is if you're going to create a composition, not just a single fish, but if you're going to do, or a single animal, if you're going to do multiple animals interacting with each other, that's why you want to study the different angles that these animals are going to come at you in. Okay. And then, of course, he has his front whiskers that are just going to come down like this. And where's the other whisker? The other whisker is going to come out here. So side and then coming toward you there. And you can get as detailed as you want. I could go in and put like little marks for the tail or not. Now, today, of course, if you found sketches like this from Da Vinci or someone very famous, even though they were doing little sketches and they were trying to work out for themselves that muscle memory or work out a design, what I do a lot of times they would do it in a journal. So all you if you can attribute the journal to that artist, then you can say, okay, this obviously was a piece from Michelangelo or whoever it was. What I like to do is if I'm doing little sketchy sketches like this, I will come down when I'm finished and I'll just put a quickie little signature on there and the year. So even though it's sketches, you never know. You can become famous someday. And if you did, boy, somebody, it would really help whoever it is that has your artworks if your symbol or your name and the date or the year that you created it somewhere was on there. Like one of the ones that I didn't show you, let me find it here. Um, one of the ones that I didn't show you was this page that has some goldfish and a whole bunch of cherry blossoms and bamboo all over it, right? That's what my practice pages usually look like. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Okay, now instead of using this, I'm going to move to a brush like this. Because what we were working on here is sort of the outline of our various fish. But now let's do something with a little more body to it. And this is what I was working on here. You see the little goldfish shapes right here that are just so funny. I love those. And so we're going to use an Asian brush to do those. So let me get the Asian brush wet. Let's get some of the black on there. And I'm turning the brush as I'm putting the paint on it because I want the tip to be um, sharp so that I can work on with the tip on the shapes. And right now I just put lots of ink in it, so it's going to give me nice black marks. So I think these little goldfish, these are very loose goldfish, and I'm going to do them in black now, but you could also do them in various colors like your oranges and your browns. And uh, super simple. There's the front of the mouth. Then we're going to put some bubbly eyes. Have you guys ever seen these goldfish that have the big old bubbly eyes? I think they're so cute. Now, I'm just naturally doing this. I'm doing the Asian brush hold. And when you use a normal brush, you kind of hold it like a pencil, right? But when I use an Asian brush, because I've had them in my hands since I was a kid, I naturally go directly to an Asian brush hold. So thumb and index finger like that. And you don't even have to use your other fingers if you don't want to. And you're somewhere in the straight up and down to sideways like this motion. And, but I usually use my other fingers like this to stabilize the brush as I'm using it. But it's up to you. Sometimes I use 3 fingers, sometimes I use 4 fingers. It depends because you see how I have some larger, very large brushes. So of course, when I have the large brushes, I need more fingers on deck when I'm working with those on a big artworks. But so for this one, I'm going to hold it up and down, hold it more with the 3 fingers like this, the way that the Asian grip, and then So I'm putting the big old eyes, the little mouth, and then I'm building part of the body here and another part of the body over here. So it just looks like hardly anything right now, but they're a lot of fun. And then I'm going to get rid of a little bit of that black and add a little bit of water because I want to get something that's a little more gray. So a little more wispy, right? And I'm going to put now I'm going this direction, and then I'm going to go this direction here. I'm trying to get that tip. That's why I'm constantly rolling it. I want that tip to be sharp. And because we're working on rice paper, do you see how it diffuses? That's because there's a lot of water in the brush right now. And as you're painting with it, it'll get less and less water in it. So now I'm going to put a fluffy tail, and then another fluffy tail, and another little bitty tail here, and another little fin out here. So that's the basis or the basics for a just a super simple goldfish. Now I'm going to use a paper towel and I'm going to get rid of a lot of the water that's in there because it's super wet, and that's why it makes it diffuse so much on the paper. And right now I want to put a little bit of gray on the back of the goldfish so I can define the goldfish a little bit better. Sometimes I will take a separate one of these bins. Let me get another bin here. And I will make a gray. I'll make a gray in this bin by putting a lot of water in there. You see that? And watering it down. So I have a black and I have a gray. But I don't want it to be too wet. So that's why I took it and I just tapped the belly. Remember I said the belly gets so wet? So let's just tap the belly and get some of that water out of there. And now I'm working more with gray instead of working with black, right? If I want a little bit of black, I can just boop right into there to do the tips of the eyes here, right? But if most of it I want to be gray, then I work like that. And then let's get the body here. Whoop. Body yaddy of this little guy. And we're gonna do the fin and another fin over here. But this way I can get it to be gray instead of getting it to be quite so dark. I'm gonna go like that on the top. And then I want my fluffies. I want my fluffy tail. And then another little fin back here. Okay, so that's an idea of how you can just sort of whip out some quickie goldfish. And the book I was showing you, they did some cherry blossoms over top of them, or you can do willows. If I wanted to do a willow over top of it, I would bring the branch up, and then you know how willows have the like this, right? That's why I like having the brush that has a tip on it like that. So that way I'm improvising and I'm using the tip to put a willow over top of where the fish is under the water. But if I was using black, you wouldn't be able to see the fish underneath the willow, would you? That's why I like to have my darks and my lighter colors like that. And super light here. If I go super light with lots of water, then I can even come here and do a little bit of, this is called dry brushing. Do you see how there are lines right here? It's not all full. So there's not, the brush is not sopping with water. So if I want to give the impression of water around the fish, then I want a little bit less water in there. So you see how I'm just right over top of, I'm doing different techniques and I'm just doing them right over top of each other here on this rice paper. And the reason I do it on top of felt is you see how the paint comes through on the back. Okay, so you don't want that to get all over everything. And that's why I do it on here instead, uh, is so that it doesn't go through. All right, now let's try this type of technique, but on watercolor paper. So you can see the difference because here you get a lot of running. You can see the fuzzy edges right there. And so when you're working on rice paper, it takes a little bit more practice to get what I call brush control. And that's why I do so many tests, is because it takes a lot of work with these Asian brushes that hold a lot of water to learn how to get the proper brush control. It's easier with these more modern brushes than it is with the Asian brushes. Okay, so let's paint something here instead of just practicing. I'd say I'm a little warmed up here, which is awesome. Now, when I move this away from here, because this paint is not dry, it can still soak through. So don't, I've done that before. I'm speaking from experience where I moved a piece and got some of the paint from the back of it onto the surface of another piece. And I was not happy. So take it and put it on top of either another piece of felt. I have multiple pieces of felt that I keep so that you can stack them. In this case, the top of this calligraphy booklet here, I can just put it right inside there and I'm fine. I'm good with that. I'm good. I'm good. Um, Let me see what I'm working on here. I want to see which technique I want to use. Okay, I have an idea of what we're going to do now that we're going to go to watercolor paper. Let's set those aside, and I'm going to pick something else here. Um, let's just do the black and white, and we're going to do the side of the koi fish. So you see the koi fish here. Let's do one of those, but it's going to have a different look because we're doing it on watercolor paper now, right? And then we can go in with our watercolor colors and it's going to look amazing. It will. Trust me, it looks amazing. Okay, so now we're graduating to watercolor paper. Yay! After we're warmed up. And I can still use these Sumi inks, and I'm going to use the detail brush because what I'll do is outline the fish first using the detail brush. I could outline using the Chinese brush, but what I found is that with the Chinese brush, yes, you have a beautiful tip here to work with, but you just have a tendency to push a little bit harder and end up with thicker lines. So if your objective is to give yourself an illustrative drawing like these, then I find that I want to use my little tiny rigger or detail brush first. So here, I have plenty of paint in there. All right, so we're gonna do the side, the carp on its side, right? Or the koi. And I have plenty of water in there. This is nice watercolor paper. So I'm actually going to do it slightly differently than what he has here in his example. So we've got a tail going. And I found that what happens to me a lot is that I make this area right here where the tail comes into the body. I usually make it too thick. So I'm going to focus on making it a little bit thinner here. Okay. And then we're going to bring this up and over. You see why it's nice to have a rigger brush? Because a rigger brush, the fact that it has the long hair means there's a lot of paint in there. Okay. And so this is going to be where we have we're going to have this coming out here. the dorsal fin. This comes way long here, down on the front. This part right here. Now I'm going to pull this over so you can see it. That's the one. That's the one on the top. That's what we're working on right there. Since this is live, I can't pop it up on the screen for you, you know, like we can if we're doing a video that is recorded and edited. Now I'm going to come in here. I'm actually holding this a little bit like the Chinese brush. You see how I have it between my thumb and the other two fingers instead of holding it like a pencil, because I feel I get the right brush, sort of brush strokes that way. Okay, so these are the gills here. And then we come along. The fish's mouth is sort of open a little bit here. And it comes up this way, like that. So a lot of the painting that I do is just observation. So I'm either looking at a picture of something in real life, like for instance, these right here that I have right on my desk next to me, like these poppy pods, for instance, milkweed, right? So oftentimes I will have real life pictures next to me, or I will have illustrations, like images from the book, or I've shown you before that I go on to, um, what is it, Pixabay, or I'll go on to Unsplash. And on those websites, I will pick out um, images like the crabs that we did in one of the previous workshops. So I'm either using another artist's artwork, or I'm using something like from nature. So let's put the eye in here. Plus they have a little nose right there. So let's put the eye in. Remember, if I mess up the eye and I don't save a little white spot, what can I do? I can go back in with my white and add it back in. So I'm not too worried about it. You know, don't get too worried about it. And like that. So it's starting to come to life, right? Usually when you put the eye in and the little mouth in, then they begin to come to life. And what? The whisker. So it has a little whisker here, right? Because that's what that kind of fish do. Okay. And then underneath here, they have a bunch of fins. So they have, in the picture here, they're showing the fin like sort of underneath. But really, when you look at a fish from the side, the dorsal fin, or this, I'm sorry, the side fins are sort of coming from up here, right behind where the gills are, right? So I'm modifying their design, right? And then, yes, there's going to be another one back here. And then there's even going to be a little one right here. All right. Cool, cool, cool. And see how I sort of messed up the tail there? Ugh. But if you wanted to, you could draw this in pencil first. You could draw it in pencil and then come back with your ink and ink over top of it. You can either use a brush like this, like the rigger brush, or you could also use, like I could even use this dip pen. And instead of having this in a dish like this, I could have it in a little cup, and I could do the dip pen and do my lines with the dip pen. Okay, so there's several ways to make that illustration. Now, one of the reasons I think that he wanted to show us this illustration was to show us the spotting on the top of these fish. So let's do some of the spots on the top here. And so you can just get a feel for doing very sort of random shapes. Mm. The nice thing about working with black too is that if you make what you think of as a mistake, You can just go back and fill that area in like that and modify it, right? Now, this little brush is not efficient for filling in an area like this. You can see I can only make little teeny tiny strokes. Yes, good idea. Thank you, Mark V. So I'm going to bring in my Asian brush because I can get a little bit more ink out there. Yes, actually, I can get a lot more ink out like that. I like the variation this way too, because it's a little bit of gray and a little bit of black. So the idea is to show, okay, so sort of what does the fish look like there? And so that's a little bit more of an illustrative approach now. I could use this to do the fins, but it's a little bit fat. I'm going to go back in with my detail brush and bring in the lines. I love these little detail brushes. You know, I never used to use detail brushes like this, and then I got it as part of a set with the Christy Rice brushes, and I'm like, oh, that's what you use it for. Now I'm all about it. All about it. Use it all the time now. So you can just come in here, throw these in, a little bit of detail. Great for little details. So now we're getting the feel of it, right? Let's do this. It's too dry, too dry. Dry, dry, dry. So now we've got a basic fish. And here it's the paint operates differently on the watercolor paper than it did on the you don't get as that crazy spreading on this kind of paper than you do on the other one. Okay, let's do a fish now. We're right underneath here where we can incorporate some of the color. The color. So I love the color. So let's take another one. I just keep adding water here. This is drying in there, but as long as it hasn't dried overnight like my other one did, you can just add some water and keep rehydrating it, okay? So it'll last you through a session like this. Let's do another one over here, going in the opposite direction, and then we're gonna put some color in these. So let's get one part of the tail here, kind of comes in like this. And then the other part of the tail comes over here. And again, I'm looking at his illustrations. I'm doing this fish right here. So I'm looking at what he has here. And like I said, this part is the part that I know where the tail fin comes together to the body. That's the part I really have to keep an eye on and make sure that I am keeping it small because I can have a tendency to make that too fat. Okay, so now I'm going to bring this power of observation. Observe, observe, observe. Do lots and lots and lots of observation and sketching. Okay, so there's the mouth right there. So I usually just do two little marks for the mouth, and this is where the eye is out here on the side. And then, did I do it far enough? I don't think I did it far enough this direction, but we'll make it work. Okay, let's do this. Bring this over here. And then the mouth sort of comes out here. We've got the other eye over here. But we've got where you can actually sort of see the eye on this side a little bit. So at a little bit of an angle. We've got some gills back here, right? And a little gill right here. So I'm just doing the basic body. And then let's draw in the back fin right here. There's you can kind of do a line like this, and then that line helps you to work off that fin. There you go. The fin comes back here like this. So we're just adding some lines there. There you go. And then, of course, we want to have a fin, these little fins right here. So sort of bring that in there. We have another one over here, like that. And we're going to do another little fin over here. So looking at this, I'm like, the tail is big. The body's not big enough to match the tail, but whatever. That's why we do it over and over and over and over again, right? When we are practicing, we do it over and over and over again. Okay, so I want the little whisker right here because they have their little whiskers. And then we're going to do some variation in the black on there. So I'm just going to add in a little bit of black. Putting some, because normally they'll have some brown spots or some black spots. Now, what I did with my other fish before the workshop where I was practicing, I made some gray. So not only did I put the black in there, but I wanted to have that light gray in there as well. So now I could put some spots in there and they're gray. Now, when I start to put the gray in, sometimes the gray is too dark. So I take my paper towel, and if you want to make it lighter, you just go right over top and you lift some of the paint off. And now look at that little tiny, look at the little gray spot next to the black spot. You see how it shows up nice and gray? And so that was just using more water, but also not just using more water, but also lifting it right away. It's like, you got to lift it. And if you lift it right away, then the gray appears. Okay. So for the gray, it helps a lot if you're using the lifting method. So especially like here where they're going to be shadows, right? And then I'm going to lift. You can see this piece has little bits all over it from lifting like crazy like that. Let's put a little bit more gray in here. It looks almost black going on, but if I lift it up quickly, then it'll end up being gray. Yay. There you go. If you just learned that little tip, you are good. You are good. If that's the only tip you learned tonight, is how to make those little gray spots. Add lots of water to the whites or to the black, and then lift that puppy right away. Beep. Now you have a beautiful gray. Okay, let me see what else. Where else do I want gray? Let's put some gray back here on this one. And let's put some gray in here. So it looks very dark, but there we go. Lift, lift. Now we've got the right amount of gray in there. I'm going to put another black spot. So I just went in, this was my gray and that's my black. So I just went into the black because I want to put some black spots over here before I come in with color. And if I lift the black, you're going to see the black is still black. You see that? I lifted the excess paint, but the black is still black. Pro tip, LOL. That's right. Pro tip. Water it down to get your gray and then to really make it show gray. Boop, pick that water, that excess water right up. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at some color for these. And then we'll do a goldfish because I just love the goldfish. Okay, so I'm just going to set these. Actually, I want to keep these moist. I'm an artist, but not talented like you. Oh, art by Risha. That's why we practice. That was on YouTube. That's why we practice, because I practice, 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 practice. Use that cheap rice paper for your practice, your warm ups, okay? And then warm up on some watercolor paper, and then do your final artworks like that. That's usually what I have to do. I'm not just sitting down and creating masterpieces. I have to warm up and practice. So I'm just spraying some water in there to keep these moist while I go to color, and then I can, that way it preserves those so I can come back to them, okay? So now let's look at a little bit of color. And since we're going into color, I'm gonna switch to my watercolor, my watercolor brushes, okay? So this was, as I said, the Christy Rice travel brush set, which they're awesome. They come in a little pouch. So I will link to these in the description of the video. But koi fish are usually some sort of black, brown, yellow, orange. My favorite is the orange. So what I'm going to do here, this is a tube paint. So right now I have these pans, and the pans are dry. They were from yesterday. Okay. So if I'm going to use pan paints, same thing. I grab my water and I spray, and this is called juicing up your paint. So, and this is a mixing area over here in these little paint palettes, as opposed to, like, these are paint mixing bowls that I have, so that I can do my paint mixing in those. Now, I have to go along with this. I have my little, well, it would go this way. You see the yellow, the light green, the light purple. You see the colors there? And so I know exactly what the colors are. This is called a color chart. And so I've got my color chart here, so I know what my colors are, and that'll help me with mixing. But there's no orange, and there's this light orange, but not like a brilliant orange. So most of the time, I mix my brilliant orange by taking some yellow here. So I've got yellow. Normally, I'll put some yellow in here, and then I will add to that some red right here, right? And so yellow and red together make orange. Awesome. So there's some orange, but sometimes I like to take it, this is called a convenience color. That means it's already mixed in the tube. This is by Winsor and Newton. And I can just squeeze it right out of the tube, y'all. Boop, there's some orange. So sometimes I like to grab it right out of the tube. And hey, by the way, if you're on YouTube, if you would be so kind to give the video a like, that would be awesome. I always appreciate that if you're enjoying the workshop. It's very helpful, of course, to the algorithm, right? Now I'm going to grab a different brush here. This is a cat's tongue brush that comes in that travel set. And I'll show you this orange right here. So it's a little bit thicker, it's a little bit brighter. I find sometimes when I'm color mixing, depending on what the colors are here, I don't always get like the brightest color that I'm looking for. So sometimes I do go grab a tube and put some of the color in. That's what these are. These are, well, everything in here that I put in was from a tube. So here's this brilliant Winsor orange from Winsor and Newton. There we go. So I can take that on my brush, and let's put some orange in there. Why not? And we're just putting a little in. Now that's quite bright. That orange, look at how bright that orange is, right? Ah, so I may say, wow, okay, that orange is like, ooh, too much. Let's put some of the bright in, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put a darker color. The nice thing about watercolor is the way you can layer it and glaze with it. So I'm going to come back with some darker colors over top of it and a little bit. So I'm just going to randomly put some in here. Let's put some back behind the face like that, maybe. Boop. And put some here in the tail. So what I like about this is called a cat's tongue, that shape that comes up like that. And I like that I can put it on its side and get narrow, or I can put it flat and get something that's a little flatter. So here I'm just sort of using the tip of it so I can get some orange in there in the tail. Right? Oh, fun. Okay, and let's put a little bit of orange. Let me get a little bit of water here. I just put some water on it because I want it to be a little more faded. So what am I going to do? Use my paper towel and I can lift and then I get more of a, you see the barely there? Oh, Mark made an offer. Thank you. Let me take a look there. Oh, why didn't it show back up? Okay, hold on. I appreciate it. Uh, Offers. There we go. Oh, nice. Fabulous. Let me go ahead and accept your offer there. I appreciate it. Is it going to let me accept it? Accept. Yay. So if you're on YouTube over on Whatnot, I have over 300 artworks that are finished that are available and ready to purchase. So if you are interested in taking a look at my artworks, then feel free to pop into the description of the video on YouTube, and there's a link to come over to Whatnot, and you can then go on Whatnot and take a look at my artwork and make me offers on them during the show. Woohoo! Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you as always. I appreciate you being here and I appreciate your offer. Thank you. So I just picked up some of that orange. And so now you can see that it's much more light. It's not so dark in that area. And now that I still have some orange on my brush, let's get a little bit here. And I'm going to do the same thing with those. So I keep my paper towels close at hand so I can do this. You see how I just have a blush there on the fins, right? Of that orange. And I'm going to, since I have this orange on my brush, I'm going to bring some down here as well. And now what's happening is because this one was more dry, I'm not getting bleeding, but because this one was uh, painted just recently, I'm getting a little bit of bleeding on the line that went down here because you really need to leave it a little while to dry, or I come in with it is okay because this is a type of watercolor. It's okay to come in with a heat tool like this and heat them up in order to set the paint, okay? So that can definitely be helpful. Let's do this, pick some of that up. All right, let's put some here. So I like to take a color and then while I still have it on my brush, I like to put it in all the places on all the different elements of my artwork that I might want that color. I try to do it all at once. I know some people are like, no, they just like to work on one fish and then move to another fish. And that's fine too, because watercolor, even though it dries on here, you can just re-wet it and away you go. So, um, no fuss, no muss. Don't worry. There we go. Right. The cool thing with these fish is that the color really is random. It's random. Okay, so that was a bright orange. Let's make the orange a little bit darker. And we simply do that by adding a little bit of red to it. So I'm actually now going to use the one that I mixed here, which was a combination of this yellow and the red in here. Woo! And so that's going to give me a brighter orange, right? You see the brighter orange? Why? Because there's some more red in it. So I could either use the red or I could use the magenta here, either one of those two in order to get myself an orange. And so this is a nice dark orange. I'm going to put a little extra water in there so it'll come off my brush. And so I normally with watercolor will go ahead and put the lighter colors in first and then start coming in with darker colors. So let's put a little bit darker here. I'm using that cat's tongue on the side so I can get some lines. And then I want to darken some of the areas right over top of that other orange. It's fine. It's fine. That way we have some variation in the oranges, right? All the oranges don't have to be light, light, light. They can be sort of patchy. There we go. And then over here. So I'm putting some of the orange right over top of some of the lighter orange. So they'll layer and we'll get some dimension to it. I can even go over top of some of the black. So some of the areas of the black. And let's do some more in here. Right? And underneath here. So since the fish is kind of, it looks flat here, but the fish is actually round. So I want to darken the color down underneath here, which would be the underneath part of the fish, right? And that's how you build dimension, to be able to show dimension, is that you think about, okay, what area is going to be in shadow, and then you go in a little bit darker in that area. I also often will go in that area with the gray in order to add the dimension as well. So let's go here and put a little bit of that in there. Oh, fun. It's starting to look like a carp now, right? Oh, thank you. Art by Risha says on YouTube, looks so good. Thank you. So I like to do the variation, even though I'm using orange, I'm using multiple tones of orange because I like to get that sort of almost layered modeled effect, right? Because the light is going to be usually through the water. It's not going to be just bright right in one area. It's going to be um, hitting in different areas. So you'll get the darkness and the lightness in various areas. Okay, let's get some more of this darker orange that has more red in it and come back over here. We want to put a little bit of that behind the eye, right over top of the gray. So that is one trick for getting some darker areas as well, is I'm putting the color right over top of gray. And so by doing that, um, I have two tones of this orange. I have the regular orange and then I have a darker orange because of the gray. Okay, let's put some more in over here. Love that. Love, love, love that. Now it's beginning to look like a carp, y'all. Right. Oh, they're so fun. These kind of fish are so fun to paint, I think. And you don't have to get too fancy. You can just have fun and do it and be simple. Okay, there we go. Like that. Okay, cool. Now it looks more like a carp. What? Or what do they call it? A koi. I'm used to catching carp from being a kid. We used to go catch carp and they kind of had this orangey color as well. So there you've got two variations of some koi fish with the oranges. Now, oftentimes they also have brown on them. I have found the dots on these fish oftentimes are brown. So let's pick up some brown here. You see how we have some brown right in here? So that's this one right here. Yes, I'm double dipping. I already have color on my brush, but you know what? That's okay. It's fun. It's fun and it's fine. It's fine to go on top of one color without another, without cleaning off your brush. So here we've got some brown. Let's put some brown in here. See what happens. Yeah, we can bring some brown on it and kind of get even darker colors in here. There. You don't have to do too much. I tend to do too much. I'm a too much girl. When it comes to this kind of thing, I'm like, oh, it would look good with this, and then it would look good with that. And then before I know it, it's like, oopsies. Boy, I put a lot of colors on there. So let's do the little, there we go. So now it has a little bit of brown on it as well. And I like the brown. I like the brown, but I also like it just here with the black, the gray, the light orange, and the dark orange. Okay, woohoo! That's fun. So I think this one's just about done. I think I'm going to get rid of that one here in just a minute. All right, let's do a goldfish. Oh yes, 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 yes. I love, I adore the goldfish. So this is getting warmed up on watercolor paper as opposed to getting warmed up on the rice paper. Okay. And I like the colors that we have going on there. So I'm going to take this one that's this paper towel that's super old, and I'm going to get up some of this color here. So if you want to clean up these areas, all you have to do, because it's watercolor, just spray it with water. Take a paper towel, scoop, and you can clean it, clean your area. So you've got clean dishes for the next time you want to mix a color, right? Like that. Nice. Okay, I'm going to put this aside. Of course, the rest of this paper is not going to go to waste. I'll come back in here and I'll play all over it. And if I find something that I like, then I can always photograph it and take that photograph and isolate it and create a work from that. So that's what I was doing on here, was just playing with different designs, and then I photographed them, separated the photographs out. You see those? So those are now their own um, individual illustrations. Okay, so let's do this. Um, I feel like I want to kind of cut this in half, in that I want to do one that's very loose, and then I want to do one that is very illustrative like this. So let's do the loose one first, because it's a lot easier to do the loose ones. And so let me put this somewhere like that. So the loose one I want to do, instead of starting with black, I'm just going to go straight to the color. And I'm going to do that with the Asian brush. So um, let me just, I want to have an example here. So I'm looking through this artist's book. So here you go, Lian Quan Zen, Chinese Painting Techniques. So I'm just looking through his book. Ooh, I know, there was an image at the beginning of the, no, that's not where it was. Oh, I think it's where I marked it here. Yes. So here's an image where he has very loose, what are they? The goldfish. They're hysterical looking. They are so funny. So, ooh, here's someone from the UK over on YouTube. Welcome in, welcome in. So I'm going to use a little bit of the black first. I'm actually going to start with gray because I'm like, oh, I don't want to get too crazy with the black to start. The nice thing is, using the black here on this paper, it won't, it's the watercolor paper, so it's not going to go crazy and spread out like nutso. Okay, so we're going to start out, we're going to create some little bodies of the goldfish. And you're like, what the heck, Tristina? And you're just making little dots on the page. I know, that's the cool thing, is when you're doing it super loosey goosey, you don't have to paint everything in. Part of it is about the viewer's imagination. No, right? No. It's it's not easy to do that kind of painting sometimes where you're like, "Oh, no, but I need to see it all." I know. I understand. That's three goldfish right there. Okay, let me show you. Three goldfish. And you're going, what the heck are you talking about? But this is loose, loosey goosey. So on this goldfish, I'm going to be adding eyes and I want to add a belly and a tail. So let's put the little belly down here. Notice I'm holding the brush like a Chinese brush, and you can hold it at different angles. And then here, this fish, it's going to go, here's the belly back here. And when you're doing the loose technique like this, the cool thing is you really, anything goes, right? Anything goes. Okay. And then I'm going to bring it up just a little bit more like that. Okay. I realize this is down a little bit far. So let me push this up for you. Yeet. So it's a little easier to see in the picture. There you go. I'm getting a little bit more of the gray on here. And I'm just looking. Now I want to do a gray fluffy tail on this one. So I'm just making sure I have plenty of gray and I have a pointed tip. Now I don't know if you can see that, but there's a hair hanging off the tip of that. So with these natural hair brushes like this, they shed, just like an animal does. So you have to keep an eye on them. And what am I doing? I'm turning it and making it come to a point here so I can control it. And okay. Let's get this tail going. So I'm going to do one part of the tail down here. And then I want it to be a little more fluffy. So you see how the end is not pointed anymore because I want a fluffy back tail here. There. Nice. And you're like, what the heck, Tristina? You'll see. It's going to come together. Sometimes you just have to trust the process, right? You look at an image and you're like, okay, I'm just breaking it down into some interesting shapes here. There we go. So that's so far the goldfish. We're not quite done with it yet. We're going to need to come in with some black. Right now, I'm just working in grays, okay? So let's see, on these two over here, what can I do with the gray still? Over here. Now, sometimes I turn my hand like this if I want the point and I want it to go that way. So I have the point here. I'm holding it. And then because I wanted to put a little fin right there on that one. Okay. And then this one has a little fin here. Oh, let's see. I think I want it to go like this. So there's a little fin there and a tiny fin right here. Okay. So you're looking at that and going, what the heck? Right? Hey, Salmon's girl. Welcome in. Welcome in. We're doing fish in watercolor. And right now we are using Sumi ink. So you see here where it says Sumi ink black. And I have two versions. I have the black, which is straight up out of the bottle right here. And so this is very dark. And then this, I took some of the dark and I put it in this pan and I added a whole bunch of water to it to give me gray. So now I'm working on I'm doing two different goldfish. Here I'm doing the impressionistic simple goldfish. And here I'm going to do a more illustrative goldfish like this. Okay. But not everybody's into illustrative. Some people like the loosey goosey. So I wanted to show you how I do the loose ones, which is really just working with basic shapes. Now this is black, right? I just took this and added a bunch of black. got it wet again. And so now I want to come in here and I want to do some of the marks with black. So I'm going to do the eye right here. And then I'm going to do the eye right here of this goldfish. And then I'm going to bring a little bit of black up here in the mouth and a little bit more black underneath, a little bit of black here. So I'm just tapping in some black areas. I'm going to bring a little bit of more black on the body. So I started with the gray to kind of give my image an idea of where I wanted things. Now I'm coming in and I'm putting this eye right here. And then there's going to be another eye over here. These are the goldfish that have the big old bubble eyes, which I think are so much fun. Oh my gosh, they are just so much fun. Okay. They're going to begin to almost like appear. They're going to begin to appear out of the strokes, right? And then this one down here, we're going to put an eye right here. Don't be afraid. It's okay if you're not making like perfect circles or perfect lines. When you're doing a loose painting, that is all okay. It is like 100%, because I'm going to come back in with other colors, so it won't matter. It will not matter at all. Oopsies, my alarm's going off. It's reminding me there's a TV show that I want to watch. Okay, so you can almost see the goldfish starting to come alive. Come alive here. Let's put a little like black fin back here. I'm gonna put some more dots over here. And I want that top fin. There we go. So they're starting to show, they're beginning to show, beginning to show. Can you start to see, once you start to put the eyes in, you're like, oh, okay, there it is. There they are. There they are. And this one happens to have like the gray tail, but these two are going to have reddish orange tails, and that's why I didn't put the tails in there. So that's it for the gray and black right now for these. Let me put this away. So I'm going to set the gray and the black aside. Oops, except I do want to spray it with water, right? Because I want to be sure that it stays to where I can use it and doesn't get hard on me. There we go. That's just water I sprayed in there. Cool. Now I'm going to set this brush aside and grab another brush because this already has black on it. So I like to save the brushes that already have black on them. So let's put it aside there. And then let me get another brush that I can use, another Asian brush. Okay, here's another nice Asian brush. Now this water is very black from using the black. So I'm going to go to some fresh water that I have here. And whenever I'm using the Asian brushes, you'll notice I get it wet and then I take a lot of the water out of the belly of the brush. So you might not be able to see that, but I take this and I get water out of the belly of the brush so it's not too much. Plus, as I'm running it across here, I'm turning it and getting that point. See how the tip comes to a point? So even though when they're dry, they look fluffy like this is what this brush looked like before. But you can see now that this one's right. It's super fluffy, but if I put it in the water and then I ran it across the top, it would come out looking like that. All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to come back to the watercolor. Okay, the colors. And I want something that's very close to red. So I'm going to pick up a bunch of red. Let's put it in here. Oops. Let's get more water on there. Red. Okay. Nice. So let's put a tiny bit of that orange in there. Just a little bit, just for the fun of it. And So I've got lots of color in the brush here, right? And now I'm just going to have a little bit of fun here with the tails. This one, these goldfish have these little, they're like sort of three-part tails in the back, or they have a part that goes up like this, and then a part that comes off one side and a part that comes off the other side. So if you're making sort of a triangle almost there, you're usually pretty good. Red, yes, exactly. Art by Risha on YouTube. So there's a lot of water in here too. So it's not going to come out like super dark, but that's okay. We're just going to, now if you feel like you have too much water in your brush, just take a paper towel and tap it on the paper towel. And that helps to wick away some of that water so that it's not quite so soppy. But you know, we're doing loosey goosey goldfish. So I don't care if it's a little soppy, right? So let's get this one right here. Oh, see, not enough red. Definitely not enough red. Let's grab more red there. There, it's a little stronger now. Most strong. Nice. Okay, so I'm just sort of moving it up like that. And then we're going to bring this part up like that. I'm sort of moving it around so that I get um, some variation in there, right? Ah, there's a tail of one of the goldfish. Oh yeah. And then I'm going to take that tip and I'm going to come in here and add some other red, little red bits. Now, if I feel like it's too red, you know what the trick is? Lift some of that out, right, with your paper towel, so that that way you get, I'm going to bring it up so you can see. So when I lift with the paper towel, I get a lighter color. If I didn't do that and I just let it dry, it would give me that darker color. Okay, and then I'm going to put a little bit more red over here. And then, okay, that's good, that's good, that's good. Let's look at this one over here. So I'm looking at a reference picture from Salmon's Girl. I don't know if you were here when I showed this book earlier. It's Chinese Painting Techniques for Exquisite Watercolors by Lian Quan Zhen. It's from 2000. Um, and so he has just stunning. This I can't recommend this book enough because he gives you all kinds of sketchy. He shows you the basic sketches here as well, and see like the sketches here to show you the different directions that, for instance, here the fish. He also uh, does birds and flowers and just, oh my gosh, there's so much in this book. And I will try to find a link to this book. This is like I said, from 2000, and it's one of the many books that I find when I'm sort of just looking for stuff, when I'm searching for, you know how Salmon's Girl over on Whatnot, um, I'm always asking you, do you have any art books? And this is why, because I use these kind of books extensively for reference, right? Especially for things like this. I just love it. And I'm looking at one of his artworks to kind of do these goldfish, which I think are just so cute. Okay, let's do another fluffy tail. Now, Art by Risha over on YouTube was asking about the book. And what I do after the workshop is I go on to the description of the video on YouTube. So it'll be in my live under the live tab on YouTube. And in the description, I put the links to any of these books and supplies that I can find. So if I can find the book, I will link to it, but definitely I will put the name of the book and the author in the description of the video on YouTube for you, okay? Okay, let's take a little bit more of that orange in there. Okay, cool. Now, this tail, instead of doing it this direction, what I'm trying to do is I want the skinny end out here, off, away from the fish, right? So I turn it over and I'm just, the nice thing is you're not trying to be perfect. I love it. I love when you're just doing this kind of very loose um, painting because you know what? Anything you do is going to be right. Nice. Okay. There's the tail for that one. And then I want to put a little bit of red in the, there we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, I want to put a little bit of red in the fins right there. All right, now this one at the bottom in his image does not have any red, but I'm going to go ahead and put some red in it anyway. I'm going to make it a little bit oranger. If you weren't here earlier, Salmon's girl, then besides this set, which was from Christy Rice, it's a travel set of watercolors. I also added some of my own pans in here and squeezed some paint from tubes. So this is an orange that I like to use called Windsor Orange from Winsor and Newton. And that's what I squeezed it into this little section here. And that's the orange that I'm picking up. Okay. And so let's do this one. Actually, I want to add a little bit of that orange into here. So you can create some variation just by coming back in over top and adding some other colors in there. So I'm adding some of this orangey red in, combination of orange and red. And then put a little bit more of that there. So down here, I just want to sort of tie them together with just a little bit of red in here. So not too much, just sort of bring a little bit of that red orange in on this this goldfish. Okay, let's see, where else can I put a little bit of red? There we go. So that way they're sort of tied together. They all look like they're from the same family. And I'm just gonna tap, tap, tap. Isn't that fun? Oh my gosh, they are so fun. Okay, so now the interesting thing about these eyes is the eyes have kind of yellow in them. And so I'm going to take a different brush. I'm going to use this Princeton Velvet Touch brush because I have a little more control over putting it right in the right place on the eyes there. So I'm going to take a yellow and put it in there. But before I do that, remember I showed you earlier that if it's not fully dry, that the colors can sort of blend with each other. And I don't want the black blending in with the other colors. Okay, so just hit it with a heat gun a little bit to help that. So let's take a kind of a darkish yellow here. Let's see, I can put it right here. Wow, that is like a super bright yellow. Okay, so I'm gonna add a little bit of that orangey orange into the yellow. So it's not, like super bright. And let's put some of that into the eyes. Oh, yes. It's going to make the eyes come alive. The eyes are alive. And I'm not covering the whole thing because I'm actually going to come back in with a dot of black later and put like a black dot on them. There we go. Woo! Okay, they are so dang cute. And that didn't take a whole lot. That was just a little, just a little. Um, I can even, there's a little blob of orange right there. So I'm just putting the end of my brush in with the blob of orange. And I'm actually just dropping the orange in there because that way it'll just spread together with the yellow and just give you a little variation, right? Why not? Why not? I like dipping another color in with it. Okay, so I'm very happy with how these goldfish are going. And this is just a half of a painting right here. Now, the painting that the artist originally did has some um, lily pads. So I'm just going to take this big brush right here and I'm going to get some green, my favorite green. which is called Cascade Green by Daniel Smith. That's what I'm pulling up right now. Oh, yes. And so I'm going to just slap in here a lily pad. Okay. So I'm going to just whoop, slap in a lily pad. And that color is a little bit blue, isn't it? Now I'm going to have to wait for that to dry up a little bit in order to put because the lily pad has lines in it, right? Unless I take a paper towel like this and I just pick up some of that wetness. Maybe if I do that, I can go back in. And what am I going to use to do those little baby lines? I'm going to use the liner brush that I showed you before, right? Let's get a blue to do that with. So this is Peacock Blue by Holbein that I'm grabbing right now on my brush. A little bit of water there. And let's just put some lines. So this is the lily pad, right? At the top. Oh my gosh, that is so fun. Okay, so we've got a lily pad here. And then I'm going to use a little bit of green. Which brush do I want to use? I'll just use this liner brush again. And Salmon's Girl, you weren't here earlier, but we were using the liner brush to do some of the outlining, which we're going to do in just a minute to do an illustrative. This is a very soft, diffused kind of um, goldfish. Okay, very diffused Asian, loosey goosey. We're also going to, in just a moment up here, do a more illustrative one. Okay, so you can sort of see the difference there. Okay, so this, I'm just going to bring this is the bottom of the lily pad here, right? Because the lily pad has a stem that goes down into the water. There you go, lily pad stem. And also the lily pad is going to be darker underneath. So I have a dark green in here. I'm going to pick up some darker green and some even darker green. See how I just mix the colors together? It's like, okay, whatever. I mix until I get something that I want. I want it to be washy, so I dipped it in the water. And then I'm going to bring this around here because what the underside of it's going to be a little bit darker. Yee. There we go. So now at least I've got a bit of a lily pad going, right? Okay. Now these are almost dry. I'm looking at the eyes. I'm going to go in with my dry paper towel and I'm going to pick up a little bit of that yellow where it's still just slightly wet. Okay. Because I want to put a dot of black in there. Okay, cool. Now I'm noticing that this little one doesn't have a fin over here, right? Like they need to have their little front fins. So I've got this brush has some black on it. Let's see how black it is. Ooh, that's like too black. Well, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Let's just put a little bit of water on it. This was the Sumi ink, right? And I'm just going to give it like a little fin right here. There we go. So at least you see like something there as a little fin. Cool. Now, if I wanted it to look grayer and not so black, what do? I take a paper towel and I just lift some of that up. And then that takes away some of the black. And then my fins look a little more gray, right? Okay, now we want to bring the eyes alive. And I can either do that with the paint, or if I want to be a little more precise, I'm going to cheat. So this is another cheat code, right? And I'm going to use a Micron pen, which is a permanent pen. And I'm going to go in and put the little dots in the eyes with the micron pen. I'm such a cheater. I'm such a cheater. There we go. Just make sure that your watercolor is pretty much dry, okay? When you do this. Oh, but that just totally brings the eyes alive. It's awesome. Awesome when you do that. And I'm not doing it as a circle. I'm just sort of doing it as a little, like a half moon kind of thing. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. You can cheat. You're allowed. You're allowed. It's your art, right? So you are allowed. Oh, that just brings the eyes to life. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Let me bring it up closer so you can see. These are so fun. Do you see them? You see how the eyes just sort of come alive with those little dots there? And if you want to be more precise, then you even using this. Sometimes if you use the paint like this on the brush, and this is not like super, super, super like stone cold dry, then you try to put those little eye dots in there and it just goes bleh and runs all over the place. And it makes me so annoyed. So that's when the Micron pen comes in handy for me to get those dots just exactly where I want them. So, of course, when this is all dry, I'll come in with a little bit of blue for the water in the background and sort of put it around them, some of the blue. And now let's work on this part up here. This is where we're going to do a one like this. So it's a little more illustrative, right? This was, let's do goldfish, but that are, fat goldfish like this, but that are very loose. And these are super fun. I love doing these, but let's go ahead and do something that's a little more illustrative. And we're essentially using the same paints and the same brushes. We're just using a little bit different technique. So let's go back to the Sumi ink. I'm actually going to put a little bit more ink in there. Well, wait a minute. Let me see. How's the ink doing? Can we reactivate it? Yeah. Okay. It's not been too long. This is reactivating the Sumi ink right there. So this is the one that I'm using right now, but this is one that I recommend if you've never used it before, the Yasutomo Sumi ink right there, Sumi. All right. So we're going to do a drawing using our liner brush. So if you weren't here earlier, the liner brush that I'm using is from the Christy Rice brush set, and I will have a link to it in the description of the video later tonight. I will take care of that. I'll do that. And so I like to do the lines for this using the liner brush. So let me, I'm going to look in the book because that's where I got the inspiration for doing that one. Let me find it, find it, find it. So I'm just looking through here. See, this is why I have so many books, y'all, because they are just, they're my inspiration. Okay, so that's that one. This page. This is the fish section of the book. There they are. Oh my gosh, they're so cool. Okay, so let me take that out of there. So you see the goldfish right there? And you see the goldfish right there? So that's what I was going from. And so let's do this little goldfish right here. Okay, that's what I'm going to be looking at. And so power of observation, y'all, right? Oh, you know what? I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to do this one, but I'm going to use pretty colors like this one. That's the thing. We can do whatever we want color wise. Um, and so I love the big eyes. Let's see. Okay. If you're on YouTube, I encourage you to hit the like button, please, because it helps a lot. Thank you so much. Oh, Rita said, or Risha said, your expression is very good. Oh, thank you. Okay, so up here, we're going to do that other fish. Now, if I were doing this and I wanted to have a finished piece and I knew that I was trying hard, I would take a pencil. So I would use a pencil, something like this zebra, where the ink, I mean, the line is very light, and I would draw it and then I would go over it with the ink. But you know what? We're going to live dangerously tonight, and I'm just going to use the ink and whatever. What happens, happens. So I'm using the liner brush. This is from the Christy Rice travel set. Yeet, that goes on there. It comes in a cute little pouch. Super easy to travel with, but she also has sets like this. This says Remember Joy on it. So this is the same kind of rigger brush, that long skinny brush right there. Perfect for doing these outlines. Oh, okay. Okay. Moment of truth. Moment of truth. I'm going to start with the eye and then build the rest of the fish from there. Let me see if I can get this in to where you can see. Let's see if you can see the fish. I want you to see, if you can, what I'm doing. Let's see. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see it. Yay. I'm actually going to move it over just a little bit more. So I'm working on this fish right here. So I'm going to start with that big old eye because the eye is kind of large, and it's a prominent feature of the fish. Okay. And I can kind of figure out where the mouth is and where the rest of the body goes from there. So I'm just holding the rigger brush, and we're going to do what? A circle, very light. Thank you. Art by Risha said, now I'm your subscriber. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, we've got the start of the eye. That's the big bulbous part of the eye. And inside there is another little circle. That's why I love these rigger brushes, because you can do these, really easy to do these circles and lines. And then there's a black part on the inside of that. So let's do the black part on the inside. Nice. Remember, if you lose the white, you can always come back at the end with your bleed proof white or your Copic white, which looks like this, and put the white in. So no fuss, no muss. Do not stress if you're like, too much black and now I can't get the eye. It's okay. It's okay. You're okay. All right, here we go. So there's the eye. The cool thing is the eye like sticks up above the body. So I can go here, and then there's the gill is down here, comes up and sort of meets with that part of the body there. So I'm looking at the features of the fish and trying to build the bit by bit the different parts of the body. Okay, so then this sort of comes up and over and then down, getting a little more ink because yes, the rigger does run out of ink eventually. Okay, now let's do the tail. And I'm going to bring this up here like this for part of the tail. And then there's part of the tail is going to go down here like that. And I'm power of observation. I'm observing. Now, one of the things I said earlier is oftentimes I don't make this area here where the fish tail meets the body right here. I find that for me, I often don't make it narrow enough. So I know for myself, that's something that I need to look at and I need to keep an eye on, okay, as I'm doing my designs, because I tend to make this very fat, and that's not the way the actual fish body goes. The fish body actually comes up like here, and then we'll come down to there, okay? Now it's okay. This actually comes in like two parts. There's another part to the tail that kind of comes down like this here. Because sometimes the tails are compound tails. They have more than, there's half a tail here and half a tail here on the back of the fish, sometimes for goldfish. So there's actually another part that comes here. And I just love the way they flow. And that's one of the reasons why the rigger brush is so nice. Now, this sort of comes like this, okay, at the back end here, right before the tail. Now we've got to get the rest of the fish, the underside of the fish here. Let's see, this comes up to the mouth here. So little strokes in little areas. I'm just looking at how the fish face. There's a little bump on the top of the fish here. And then this comes up like that. Okay. And then I'm looking at the mouth. I'm looking hard at the mouth. I want to get the mouth right, somewhat right anyway. So the mouth kind of goes like that. And it goes like that. And then this comes around and down. And then that comes like that. There we go. We got a mouth. We have a mouth. Oh my gosh. I always stress over the mouth. Let's bring this down. This actually comes down just a little bit more and then comes up, right? For the gills. Because with the anatomy of the fish, you have the eye, and behind the eye somewhere, you're going to have the gills, and behind the gills, you're going to have a fin. Okay. So that's, you just sort of know that that's how it's going to go. Okay. So let's come off of here. I'm looking at where I need to go because I need to bring this off of here and come down and then there we go. Okay. Now this part up here is not quite as smooth as I would like it to be. So I'm actually going to, and it's okay that there's a line there because I'll just go over it with some black, right? Or some gray, and you won't even notice it. Okay. And this part right here is actually going to have to come up a little bit more because the head was a little bit too small. Okay. Now let's get the other fins in. So this is a more, this was a loose approach. This is a more illustrative approach, right? Because we're using our liner and we're taking the ink and we're actually drawing out what we're going to have here. So behind the gill, we have a fin. Okay. And then, so if the fin isn't quite right, you know what? Just make that part right there one of the lines in the fin and just add some other lines, right? I'm loving those. Thank you, Salmon's Girl. I think you mean the super loosey goosey ones, right? Okay, let's go ahead then. And we're gonna have a twin set of little fins back here. Keep dipping in. And then we're gonna have another set right here. And then these are gonna come like this, right? So now we've got the fins in the back, but it looks funny. Why does it look funny? Because it doesn't have a dorsal fin yet, right? It needs that fin on the top to balance it. It looks so fun. Oh, Art by Risha says, I have to go. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for coming in and watching. And Art by Risha, you'll be able to watch the rest of the workshop will be under the live tab on my YouTube channel. So I know that you said that you subscribed. And so if you want to pick up where you left off, the workshop will be there under the live tab. Okay. All right, let's start here. So this is about where this starts and it comes like that. And then it sort of comes around and a little bit more and like down just before that. Now I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, that's not, to me, that's not in balance as to the head where that is. I'm looking at the image right here of this artist But I'm like, ooh, okay, the way I drew it doesn't look quite right. So I'm just going to let this line right here be one of the lines of the fin. And I'm going to actually bring it up here. And I like it better starting here. So I'm going to do this. And that just becomes one of the lines. And then to me, that's a little more in balance. And I need the head to be a little bit bigger here. There we go. Now he's in balance. And you're probably looking, going, what the heck are you talking about? In balance, not in balance. You know what? It's just the eye of the artist. So that's all. It's just the eye of the artist. It wasn't in balance to me. And see what I mean about the rigor, how I just love it for getting these lines like this. Oh my gosh. Fantastic. So easy to like do your little lines and get those little shapes just the way you want them in here. I'm going to bring it up close so you can see. When you use the rigger brush, if you push a little bit harder, you get these kind of fatter lines like that. Oh, I'm obsessed. I had said earlier, if you weren't here, that I've never used a rigger brush except to just maybe sign my name. And I am in love with this rigger brush now from Christy Rice. I watched a bunch of her videos and she showed how she used them. And I'm like, huh, I should give that another try. Well, that was a good idea because wow. Now that I've used her brush, I'm like, okay, now I understand why she's obsessed with her own rigger brush, right? Okay, let's do this. Where else? The tail, of course, is going to have lots of little lines on it. Now this tail, I want it to go further. So I'm just going to do it further, and then I'm just going to bring my lines in there. And then it won't matter that I had another line there before, right? Between us artsy friends, you won't tell, right? Don't tell. Nobody tell that I changed it. Okay, here we go. And then I'm going to bring some down here. A little bit more. You don't have to do the whole line. You can do parts of the lines. Okay, a little bit more back here. Lovely. This brush is going to become your best friend as it has mine. Fabulous. Oh, I'm so happy. Now, another feature that this particular fish has is he put scaling on it. So this one, I don't have scaling. I just used paint to do the scaling. This one, I put a little bit of scaling there. You see that? Where I just put little loopy loops. So you can either do that, you can just do like little, I just, again, plenty of paint on here. And then I just do little loopy loops like this, little half moons, little marks to put, right? So I just do that to put some of those on there, some scales. And you know what? It's your artwork. Don't feel like you have to put scales everywhere. Just put a few in a few areas. Now, what he did in his image is he did a crosshatch. So let me see if I did a crosshatch here somewhere. I know I did in one of my samples. I did a crosshatch. I'll show you what the crosshatch looks like because I did it when I was doing my testing. Testing. Okay, here we go. So here is some carp where I was testing on rice paper, and you see how I did the grid pattern there, and then I put little marks on the grid pattern for the for the scales, right? But for this one, I'm not going to do that. Even though in his picture he did do that. I'm not going to take the time to do that. I like to just put the suggestion, a few here, a few there. I mean, it's a fish, right? So that's enough. And what, any special features on the face? No, no, no. Okay. Oh, he's a cute, fat, little goldfish. Now, oftentimes goldfish have a little nostril, right? Right? Yeah, right next to the face. So I'm just gonna put a little nostril right there. So you see that? Now he has a little nostril. Oh, thanks, Salmon's Girl, for sharing the stream. I do appreciate you. Um, okay, that was fun. That's the hardest part. The next part is the fun part. Now I'm gonna add a little bit more um, of the black behind the eye here, just to make it a little heavier. But what am I gonna do? I'm gonna come right in with my paper towel and I'm gonna pick some of that up so it's not quite so like, whoa, so in your face black, right? But I'm going with it. I'm going with it. I'm just putting some more lines around the eye. There you go. Oh, hi there, Unique Love Garden over on Whatnot. Do I sell it after I do the artworks? What I do, Unique Love Design, is if it's not a finished work during the workshop, I will finish it during the course of the week, and then next week I would have it loaded in to the buy now or loaded in as an auction item, and then I would go ahead and sell it at that time. And the reason that I'm doing this half and half on the paper here is so that I can make this actually two pieces of finished artwork. And these are pieces that I did in preparation for the workshop. And I actually took them and I scanned them. And now I have separate little, see, I have separate little artworks like that. Um, yeah, thank you. Yeah, you can take, I use the Canva app, Canva, and I will take a picture and then I get rid of the background. So for instance, here with this one, I took a picture of it. I said, get rid of the background remover. And then I'm just left with the fish and my signature. And with this one, you can see when I didn't have a signature on it, but on Canva, I'm able to use a mark, like a marker with my finger or with a tool. Yeah, it's not canvas, it's Canva. So it's Canva. And yes, it is a good one. I agree, Salmon's Girl. So this one I was actually able to put my signature on with Canva itself, the Canva tools. And then when I took this picture, of course, there was part of this fish in it, but I was able to use their magic eraser and take the other fish out of the picture. And so that's what I like to use in order to, like, something like this that's just playing becomes finished work that way. And so often I will offer these as as pieces that you can buy the prints as well. Okay, so thanks for your question. I appreciate it, Unique Love Garden. I do. I appreciate the question. This piece is finished, but I haven't photographed it yet, so it's not in the the buy now. But the stuff that I did last week, all that stuff's now in the buy now, and the prints are in the buy now. So when we get to the auction part of the show, I'll show those to you and I'll actually auction those. Um, Lovely, loving this fish. Now, if you weren't here earlier, this is the black straight out of the bottle here of the Sumi ink. Okay, so that's that black Japanese calligraphy ink. And now I also, at the same time, I made a gray. So I took this brush with lots of the black in it and I put it in this pan and I added a bunch of water. And so that gave me a gray. You see the gray there? So instead of it having a lot of pigment in it, it's got more water to pigment. And so this is going to give me a gray. But what I do now is anywhere, oh, look at me, see? I made a mess on the mouth. Oh well. See, that one I may not sell now. But I'm going to take this gray and I want to, let's say I want to make the belly gray, right? So I'm going to put this gray in the belly here, and then I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to pick up quite a bit of the color. Dink. And now I've got a light gray. I also go into like the bottom part of the tail here and the bottom part here of the tail. And this is where I put my grays in. And when I lift it with the paper towel, then I'm left with a lighter gray. And so that's how I kind of get a bunch of the dimension put in there. Okay, so let's do this. And then paper towel, quick, before it dries, like that. Right? Isn't that cool? And right, there's going to be normally gray right down in here, right? So it looks dark, but when I take the paper towel and I lift it, then I'm left with a gray. Eek. Perfect. So that's the way that I put my grays in before I go ahead and put my color in. So let's do that right there. I actually want to put let's give this area a little more dimension and bring it in here. And of course, see, it's shedding. It's shedding. There's a hair trying to come out of there because it's natural hair. And so also I want some gray down below here, but it looks too dark like that. So quick, 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 I have to come in and lift it up with the paper towel. Dink. And now I have gray. Ah, fantastic. Now this is watered down. It's not the black one. It's a watered down version. And so let's put some down here too. Let's do this whole area over here with the gray. Quick, quick, quick. You have to be quick with the paper towel. Nice. Right? So that's how you're building the dimension. Oops. Where else? I'm going to need some gray here, which is the under fins, and some gray here for this under fin. Hold on. Quick, 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 quick. Think gray. Awesome. There you go. You see how you get your grays? Isn't that cool? That is so cool. Okay. I'm going to bring a little bit more in there. Do that. And I'm going to put a little bit of gray down at this end of the top fin. Lovely. Oh, so fun. So fun. That's why I have two of these. I have one for the darkest dark, and then I have one for the gray. Okay. That's the trick for getting the grays and the blacks. All right. That's for this kind of painting. I think that's really important to know. All right. Um, you know what? I want to do a little bit more gray on the eye here. So I just added some more water because I want a super light gray around the eye. So let's just do that. Super light gray around that eye. Nice. Okay, lovely. And let's get a little bit more light gray under here. Loving it, loving it. All right, so that is laying in the initial illustration and then putting in your grays in order to get your shadowing. Now the fun, right? Now it's the fun part. Oh yeah, let's do this one more time. Let's just hit it with heat. There we go. Let's hit it with a little bit of heat. Now with normal watercolor, you can use a scrubber brush and get rid of your boo-boos. But with this Sumi ink, I don't think I can get rid of that boo-boo. So let's try it though. Let's try it. What the heck? Why not? So this is a little bit stiffer brush. It's a brush that has a little bit stiffer, short and stiff here. Let me see. I have one more scrubber brush that's a little bit more stiff even. Okay, this one's even a little more stiff. Let's try the Let's try the stiffer one. Now I'm going into cleaner water. I'm not going into the dirty, dirty, dirty water. And you don't want it to be too wet, but let's give this a try. Let's see if I can clean that. He's blowing a bubble. Yes, exactly. I don't think that it's going to come off because, no, see, it is not budging. It's just, it's getting a slightly lighter because the Sumi ink is very, it's just very, like it takes over. So no, it's not coming off, but that's okay. I don't mind. We're having fun, right? So this is or the orangey red from our watercolor palette here. Let's see, this is so dark with black right now. I'm not going to dip my brush in that. Actually, I'm not going to use this one. I'm going to use this one. This is the cat's tongue. Unforgiven. Oopsies. Hey there, S. Diedrich. Welcome in. Welcome in. Um, okay, so this is the cat's tongue from the Christy Rice travel set. And I like to use this one, and I like to use this one, the dagger, they call it, to do the to put the color in. But okay, so let's take this one and just dip into here. Let's get some color going. What the heck? Why not? Why not? I'm going to start with some yellow. So we had some yellow left in here, and I have like some lemon yellowish-ish color here. So we've got that on there. This is just watercolor. And I had shown y'all earlier that underneath here, there's a little ring, and that's so that you can put your finger, I put my middle finger through it like this, and then I can hold it in my hand and it's very stable. Yeet. And if you're outside painting, it's not going to fall that way. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put some yellow. It's like a kind of an orangish yellow almost, because like the fins oftentimes are the fins oftentimes are a little bit what do you call it? They're a little bit kind of translucent. And so I can get away with doing a lighter color there, right? Let's always have to have my paper towel in hand. Okay, 52 seconds left. And see, I would normally come right in with my paper towel so I don't, so it's not too dark, right? It's kind of filmy. I like the color to be a little bit filmy. So let's grab a little bit more of the yellow. And I just sort of want to create a filmy effect here because we're going to be in the oranges anyway. So we might as well throw a little bit of yellow underneath them, right? Can't hurt because the body is actually going to be a little darker than the fins. The fins are going to be translucent, right? 10 seconds. Ooh, who's going to win? Who's going to win? Yay. Okay, let's see. I'm going to bring a little bit of orange into there. Flower gazer won. Woot, woot. Okay. So I am just making it up, as I go along here, just from, that's why you practice a lot, because then you have a feel for how things should look or how you want them to look. Okay, I'm getting a little deeper orange going here. So I know I'm going to need a deeper orange right behind the gills, right? Behind the gills, behind the gills. The nice thing is, because you already have gray in, you can, because there's already gray there, I can just go right over top of gray with the orange, and it gives me a very interesting shadow, because these other colors are very translucent, transparency colors. Okay, so I'm just bringing a little bit of color. This is the fun part, bringing the color in. And then let's put some orange down here. So I'm just using the edge of the dagger now so I can get some lines, some orange lines in there. as opposed to just covering the whole area with orange. Oh, nice. Nice. Same here. So the nice thing about a dagger for doing this part of the work is that you can use the tip of the dagger. So if I flip it over, I can just use the tip for fine lines, or I can use this part of the dagger right here to get a little bit fatter line. So it gives you options, options. So let's do this a little bit. So we've got some orange going on in here. Nice. A little bit more up toward the top and maybe a little more along the edges there. Nice. It's looking cute, right? One of the things that I like about having these little marks that I made for what are they? They're not fins, for the scales, is then I can come in with like a deeper color like this, or I already have some orange on my brush, but I put some red on there. And then I can just sort of mirror them like this and put some color around those. There we go. Right? I don't have to be too perfect because I already took the time to do the little marks. So I'm just sort of mirroring the basic shape, and I don't have to be exact. And I can even come in here and just by using the tip of the brush, sort of create a little bit more without the black lines, right? Or I could just cover the whole thing with color, but I like to leave some white. I think the white is good. Let's put some more orange in the shadow areas in the top of the head there, like red. Let's get some more red in the top of the head. Yeah, that's cool. So you're just gonna play. Let's do some more red on the belly. There we go. So that area is a little bit darker because it's gonna be darker anyway. Let's bring some red into here. Okay, it's looking cute. It's looking cute. I think we need something in this part of the face, but I think what we need is something like a blue up in that area. All right. Yeah, it's coming together. It is coming together. Just make some more marks in there just because I like to leave some white area. I do like to leave some white area. It's okay to leave some areas white, y'all. But I'm feeling like up in the eye area, we need a little bit of blue. So let me just bring it up closer so you can kind of get a feel for why I'm saying that. You see that? So if I could put oranges and reds up there, but I feel like we have enough orange and red back here and yellow that I feel like the eye needs a little something that's more unique to the eye. So I'm going to use this Velvet Touch brush, the Princeton Velvet Touch watercolor, because I like the way it comes to kind of a point there, and I can be a little more precise with it. So let's take some of this blue. Now I have several kinds of blue in my set here. So you see how these look here, but I'm feeling like maybe this one over here, which is the ultramarine blue, would be better. And so that one is over here. This is the ultramarine right here. And I don't want it to be dark. I just want it to be light. So I added a bunch of water to it. I agree, right? Yeah, the using that kind of and it's okay if you go in like lighter and then build it up. Also, um, the opposite color on the color wheel from orange is blue. And so that's another reason why a lot of times you'll see orange and blue used together because they're opposite each other on the color wheel and they play well together. I'm actually going to bring a little bit of this just very dilute blue in here to kind of create some shadows too. Why not? I mean, I've got the gray for shadows, but wouldn't it be fun to have a little bit of blue for the shadows too? Remember, paint to be joyful and have fun. So let's get a little bit more of that in here. And where else do we want some of that blue? Just for the heck of it, because there's a little bit of white in here. I'm just going to drop some blue in there. Ah, don't be afraid. It's okay. The one thing I want to be careful of is if I drop the blue on top of the yellow, what's going to happen? I'm going to get green. That I don't want. I want blue and I want yellow and orange. I don't want green in my fish. So I'm staying away from the yellow with this blue because I don't want, I'm just going in the white spaces with the blue because I don't want the blue to mix with the yellow and turn into green. Okay. So that's where your sort of your color theory comes into play with something like this. Okay. So I'm not going over top of the yellow. I'm just going over top of the whites. And that's another good reason to leave yourself lots of white, right? So you can come back in and build some other colors. All right. Now I want to go a little bit. I went lighter on the eye. I'm going to bring the eye up to you. So I went lighter on the eye for the first coat. And now I'm going to go a little darker, a little darker. So I'm going to make the blue a little more intense. So there's a little more pigment in it. And then I'm going to drop that in the back side here and underneath here. There we go. Nice. Now I want to pick some of it up. So I want it to be there, but I don't want it to be quite so dark, except for in the eye. Nice. Okay, we got it. We got it. We got it. So now you can see it gives the eye a little more dimension, right? When I do that. And I can put some of this blue on the lips right here, right? Or I could make the lips red. Either way. There we are. And a little bit of blue back behind it there. The thing is, when you put blue over top of orange and they optically mix, they turn brown. So you also want to be careful not to put too much blue over top of the orange. Otherwise, you're going to have kind of a muddy color. Look, let's put a little bit of the blue there. Oh, okay. And I'm going to put a little bit, again, I don't want the blue in with the orange. So here, right? I don't want the blue with the orange. So I'm just going to have it be pretty wishy-washy and sort of go in between the areas where the orange is. I don't want to put it on top of the orange. And I'm going to leave an area right here in the middle where it's just, or a little above the middle where it's just white. And that's because if the item is round, then the top up here is going to be darker and the bottom down here is going to be darker, but that middle section is going to be light, isn't it? So I'm just going to bring some more blue and down in here. And I'm avoiding the orange because I don't want it to turn brown. Okay, cool. Leave yourself that white. All right, good. Fun. Okay. I think that's it. I think that's good. Right? I think we so I've got, let's since this is pretty dry already, I'm going to put a little bit of the blue down here for the water. And that'll be the final thing that we do before we do another giveaway and then start the auction. Okay? So let me this brush is not big enough to do the water. This is a better brush for the water. Maybe I have one that's not used yet. So it's okay to have a brush that is, I love the Asian brushes for doing the loose stuff. So you see how fat that brush is? Now there's a lot of water in there, so I have to take a lot of that water out. And let's do some of this pretty, some of these other blues over here. They're very pretty. My favorite blue for a lighter blue is the ocean blue from Holbein. So that's what I have here is the ocean blue. I made my own pan and put it in the Christie rice set. But I want lots of water because I want it to be super, super duper soft, right? So let's just bring some softness in here. And I can go over top of that green just a little bit. I really don't want to go over top of the fish so much because I don't want that blue to interfere with that beautiful red. But I'm just going to go around it kind of. But I love the Chinese brushes for this. They are fabulous because they hold so much water. So it makes it really easy to deposit a bunch of water in here. Eh, nice. Oh, they're so cute. Okay. So there are goldfish and lily pads, right? Put a little bit more in there. And a little bit more water up in here. Nice. Okay. Any last minute questions? I think, hey, Queen de Bohemian, welcome in, welcome in. I was showing how to use Sumi inks and watercolors to do some fun Asian, sort of Asian inspired um, fish. Tonight's theme was fish. Finish that up a little bit there. Loosey goosey, loosey goosey. They're fun. These were my loose goldfish, and this was the one that had more of an illustrative look to it. Okay, well, that is it for the workshop. I hope you enjoyed that. I love doing the loose versus the illustrative. It's so much fun.